Welcome. Today, we're diving deep, literally, into a fascinating and, frankly, deeply sobering scientific investigation. We're going to unpack the extreme physics of the deep ocean. Specifically, we're focusing on the environment surrounding the Titanic wreckage and the tragic incident involving the OceanGate Titan submersible. Our goal with this explainer is to use pure science and physics to understand an environment that is, honestly, more alien to us than the surface of the moon.
Now, you've probably seen this stark, viral question floating all over the internet. Why, in the debris fields of the Titan submersible, and indeed around the Titanic itself, are there seemingly no human remains? It definitely sounds like a grim mystery, right? But it's actually a profound lesson in physics. Today, we're going to solve this mystery, absolutely no speculation involved, just by looking strictly at the intense, unforgiving forces of nature at play down there.
Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, Reaching the Titanic. To really grasp what happens to a vessel, or a human body for that matter, at the bottom of the ocean, we first have to leave our natural habitat completely behind. Right now, on the surface, you and I are experiencing exactly one atmosphere of pressure. We've got comfortable temperatures, abundant sunlight, the whole shebang. But as a submersible descends to the ocean floor, traveling thousands of feet down, the environment radically shifts. I mean, the sunlight disappears completely, plunging everything into absolute extreme darkness. Temperatures steadily drop to near freezing. But the absolute most critical difference, the one that transforms this environment into something entirely hostile, and the one that drives our entire investigation today, is the crushing weight of the water above.
Which brings us to Section 2, Extreme Hydraulic Pressure.
We really need to isolate the primary scientific culprit here, because everything we're talking about today comes down to one overwhelming force of nature. So let's clearly define what we're dealing with. Hydraulic pressure isn't just a heavy weight resting on top of you, like, say, a stack of bricks. It's the immense, crushing force exerted by a fluid, in this case, an entire ocean of water, compressing inward from every possible angle. Just imagine the entire weight of the Atlantic Ocean actively trying to squeeze its way into whatever tiny space you're occupying. It's an invisible, physical reality that dictates literally every aspect of deep-sea engineering and survival.
And the math here is just staggering. 400 times. That is how much greater the atmospheric pressure is at the depth of the Titanic compared to what we feel on the surface. To put that into perspective, imagine the weight of a fully grown elephant balanced entirely on your thumb. Yeah, no way, right? But that's the kind of force we are dealing with. For every single square inch of a submarine's hull, there are thousands upon thousands of pounds of force pushing inward. The sheer physics of this depth are almost incomprehensible to the human mind, and they require engineering precision that, frankly, borders on the miraculous.
So, let's look at Section 3, the submersible's fate.
What actually happens when a submersible enters an arena with 400 times surface pressure? How do these extreme environmental variables physically interact with human machinery? Well, it breaks down into a pretty clear sequence. First, that immense hydraulic pressure constantly searches for any microscopic structural flaw in the vessel's materials. It seriously only takes a single, minuscule point of weakness. Second, if a flaw does give away, there's an instantaneous loss of the pressure hull's integrity. Finally, because the pressure from the outside is so monumentally vast, the surrounding water rushes into the lower pressure environment inside the sub, resulting in a violent, inward, catastrophic collapse.
The absolute crucial point here is the speed at which this happens. Total destruction is measured in mere milliseconds. We're talking about a time frame so infinitesimally small that it is vastly faster than the human nervous system can even process information. The brain literally doesn't have the time to register pain, sound, or the event itself. It's a sudden, instantaneous shift from existence to non-existence. It's incredibly violent, for sure, but structurally it's over before it even truly begins.
And that leads us perfectly into Section 4. Where are the remains?
We can finally return to our starting question, now armed with the scientific context we need to answer it. Extreme hydraulic pressure and rapid compression instantly disintegrate biological matter. You see, when a catastrophic implosion occurs at a depth where the pressure is 400 times normal, the physical body doesn't just sink or float away. The sheer violence of the water rushing inward under that much force destroys organic material on a macroscopic level instantly.
Let's break down the specific physics of that exact moment, because it actually happens in 3 simultaneous phases. First, you have the instant physical destruction from the sheer weight of the ocean water rushing in. Second, and this is a completely fascinating law of thermodynamics, intense heat is generated by the rapid compression of the air inside the submarine. Think of a diesel engine, right? A piston compresses air so rapidly it generates enough heat to ignite fuel.
On a vastly larger scale, when gases inside the sub are violently compressed, they heat up to thousands of degrees, essentially incinerating material instantly. And finally, you get the complete dissolution of those remaining elements into the surrounding ocean. The physics of the deep sea literally leave nothing behind.
So as we wrap up this explainer, we really have to ask ourselves, with pressure this unforgiving, an environment that can completely disintegrate technology and biology in literal milliseconds, where does human exploration go from here? It's a profoundly humbling thought, isn't it? It reminds us of both the fragility of human life and the overwhelming, untouchable power of nature. It forces us to ask, are there boundaries on this planet we simply aren't meant to cross? Thank you so much for walking through this complex science with me today. Keep asking those big questions and never stop exploring the facts.